Here we are, EDI Exposed episode 1. This is exciting, and we've been working on this for a little bit still. I'm going to move in because we don't need to be so far away from it, do you get what I'm saying? But this is just going to be super chilled. I feel like the journey we're going to go on in this podcast now, it's going to be interesting, because I feel like the conversations we have day in and day out in the office, in meetings, on the phone, whatever, are so interesting as it relates to our analysis and breakdown of what we see going on in the world of equity, diversity and inclusion, because obviously it's our day-to-day, it's our bread and butter, and as we have guests on this, it's going to be interesting to get their insights, as long as they're willing to be open, to be vulnerable, to be honest, all of that. And I personally think that people are going to get a lot of value from these conversations. Do you get what I'm saying? I think the word exposed is quite I think it's funny. Do you know why? That's exactly it. A lot of people, when I say to them, oh yeah, me and my colleague Natalie, we're starting a podcast called EDI Exposed, they're like, what are you exposing? Like what? Like they think we're some like, do you get what I'm saying? Like we get like some inside scoop on, do you get what I'm saying? Like we're the Candice Owens of the UK. Like do you get what I'm saying? What is this? But no, this is important, because as you can see, it says equity, diversity, inclusion was a challenge for your company until today. Why do we say that? We say that because for us, we're not in any way saying that we are full-blown experts that can see any issue and tackle it, but what we have definitely done is developed enough experience to see trends, to see patterns, to see
progress, where we've been, where we don't want to return 100%. To, where we are now,
and where organizations we're working with are doing things, and maybe because obviously they don't necessarily always have that external perspective, that where they're doing things that we're like, if you keep doing that,
it's not gonna work.
That's not gonna work. Do you get what I'm saying? So this is EDI Exposed. Do you get what I'm saying? Like being brought to you by myself, Lewis, and of course Natalie from 7PK. Quick bit about us. Our mission is to help people in disadvantaged situations to have more equity within society. So our work revolves around both social mobility and equity, diversity and inclusion. And I'm just thinking about who we work with now. We work with organizations from the corporate world to the charity sector to local authorities.
All different levels, from investment to grassroots.
Right through. And so as a result, we feel like we've developed quite a strong understanding of where there are things that work, don't work, can be improved, all of that. But we want to share it. Do you get what I'm saying? Because for us, we're mission driven, we're purpose driven, and as far as we're concerned, if we were to just go about developing this understanding and not sharing it, we're just going to allow the same issues to perpetuate.
Exactly.
And so as far as we're concerned, we have to share this stuff, or else we're not going to go about achieving our mission of helping people in disadvantaged situations to minimize the length of time they stay in a position of disadvantage. Do you get what I'm saying? So yeah, man, exciting times. So expect guests on this. That's what I should have said. I think I kind of alluded to it, but definitely expect guests on this. Me and Natalie are ready to sit down with some people and have some meaningful conversation, but also press them a little bit for give us the real. Do you get what I'm saying?
Like how it is.
Yeah, man. Don't give us the well, as an organisation, what we like
the politically correct, glossy version.
We're looking for the what keeps you up at night? Do you get what I'm saying? When you did this, why didn't it work? Do you get what I'm saying? Give us the real, because the truth is as well, that's actually I personally am a believer, and I'm sure you'll agree now, that like organizations need to be honest about what's going on in their EDI journey. Because if then, I think it actually attracts more talent. That's my philosophy, is that
honesty gets that authentic change. Sorry to
it does. But tell us more about what you mean by when you say authentic change.
I mean, if you're not honest, then you're not capturing that kind of the real issues, and then you're making changes. You're just doing things, but not to address something that's actually existing. You're just doing things.
Facts. I mean, I look at it like
relevant change, authentic change,
100%. No,
impactful change. You know what I mean?
No, you're right. Yeah, because you're not going to be able to deal with what's at the deeper levels versus the surface. But I also look at it like, I think there are a number of people who are looking for in your recruitment materials as an organisation, not just here's our commitment to EDI, but actually here's what we've been doing, here's where we've been facing challenges, here's where we're still working on things, here's where we're making adjustments. I personally think people have more respect for an organisation like that than an organisation that seems to just present the commitment.
Definitely. We've heard, like the 2020 EDI commitment statement to this journey. Like now, looking back, now it's kind of mocked. It's like, well, you've made this, you haven't done anything. So like you said, people want to see the journey, the work, the growth. Yeah.
Listen,
It's
we're
not
far
enough.
beyond that
Statement's
time
not
now.
enough
We're
anymore.
far beyond that time
Yeah.
now, so it's important. It's important. So yeah, man, let's get into it. Let's not waste no time. So the first segment, we have segments, just so you don't know.
we have
We have whole
segments.
segments. Do you get what I'm saying? I can't remember the name of all the segments, but we're gonna remember that over time, so that's okay. But I know our first segment is definitely called No Laughing Matter, and the funny thing about No Laughing Matter is we may actually laugh. Do you get what I'm saying? So we're gonna play you a little clip. It might be something that we've seen online, something that's been shared with us, something that we've read. It could be anything that is theoretically quite amusing or entertaining, but we're going to break it down and talk about how it relates to equity, diversity, and inclusion in the workplace. So let's get into it. We're going to input this into the video so you can see it as well. But yeah, this is going to be fun. Do you get what I'm saying? So let me see what Nat's got for us.
Okay.
What's poppin'? Don't mind me just watching. Don't mind me just watching. Don't mind me just watching. Don't mind me just watching.
Even HR. Nah, that's what he's singing.
What's poppin'? Don't mind me just watching. Don't mind me just watching. Don't mind me just watching. Don't mind me just watching.
You know.
Don't mind me just watching. Don't mind me just watching.
Stop
Don't mind
it.
me just watching. Don't mind me just watching.
Nah, why is HR so nonchalant? Alright, let's talk about this. So obviously, who is that person? We should credit them. We should
let's
credit
see.
them. It says Inside Voices. I don't even know if that's the original account or not.
We'll have a little dig and look.
Yeah, we don't know if that's the original account, but that's where we got it from. But anyway, oh no, does it seem to be that he releases?
that's
And he's only got 6 subscribers. No, big him up, man. Let's try and big him up. You know, say Inside Voices on YouTube. Do you get what I'm saying? Like Inside Voices dash, what does that say? LL9LU. I don't think we need to worry about that part, but Inside Voices on YouTube for sure. Let's big them up because obviously they've just started and they're not necessarily getting many views yet. So let's just large them up. But anyway, that's funny. And the reason that's funny, yeah, because in some places that's real.
It is real.
That's real.
It is real.
Like, so what's popping? It sounds like the person is basically saying, I'm looking to know if you are. I'm looking to understand if you're seeing and feeling and experiencing what I'm seeing and feeling and experiencing.
Yeah.
Like, can no one else feel? Can no one else see? Can no one else understand that there's some real racism going on right here? But everyone's just don't mind
Acting
me just
like
watching.
don't mind me just watching.
Yeah, yeah, like yeah,
shameless,
that's
completely shameless. And even like the allies, you'd call yourself an ally, like, and you're, you know, not paying attention, or a manager has a job, like, you know, duty of care, not watching it.
that's outrageous, you know. But so let's break it down one by one. The managers just sipping tea and had a smile on their face, you know. That's the only one that had a smile, sipping tea. Don't mind me just watching, like. But you said you had my back. You said in line management.
Yeah, you said.
You said in line management.
You said.
Yeah, I'm a big you said person.
You
still.
said.
I don't ever call people out, you know. I just remind them of what they said.
they
But remember when you said, do you get what I'm saying? I'm on that every day of the week. But now that's crazy because when you think about it, yeah, the manager's even smiling, saying, "Don't mind me just watching."
Almost like he knows.
It's just how it is here.
Yeah.
That's just how it is here. It's crazy. And actually, I've had to navigate the same if I'm, for example, somebody who's from the same background as you, or my perception is that you're gonna have to just navigate that because that's part of what it means to work here.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Yeah.
That's
No, it's
far
not.
from okay. Do you get what I'm saying? So that part is nuts to me. But then you got the allies who is almost like, I'm sorry. It's like their facial expression was like, I'm sorry
kind
that.
of like, oops.
Yeah. Which is interesting because it speaks to like, and obviously we're running a session about this later in the month, right, for one of our clients. But it begs the question of like, as allies, do people pick and choose when they want to show up as an ally? Or does that mean you're not a true ally?
I think what I was thinking, there's picking and choosing, but then there's also like workplace culture, like comfortability. Like why are the allies struggling? Maybe they don't know what to do. Maybe the culture in the workplace won't support them either. Maybe.
Which could be one, like, true. So with they don't know what to do, are we suggesting that's their responsibility to go on the journey of better understanding and equipping themselves to do? Or is it on the organization to better equip, educate and empower allies to be more effective?
I would say both. But in the context of the organisation, I think the organisation needs to, set that trend, or set our organisation wishes to be like this. In order to get like this, we encourage you to X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z.
To connect observation to action.
Yes.
So instead of the ally saying, don't mind me just watching, which is the observation, they actually know what to do should they observe something that is adversely
Racism.
impacting someone else, you know, be it through racism or other forms of discrimination based on identity. So that is very important. I agree with that. But I think this is what's funny because you also said that allies maybe don't feel that well, I don't know if this is what you said, but the way I received it is more like they don't necessarily feel they can do something. So like, it's one thing for them to not know what to do, but even what if they know what to do, but the culture suggests if they do something, I'm receiving it as maybe they get vilified. That's toxic, you know?
Imagine. I think
Super
that's in
toxic.
a lot of cases. I would imagine that people
What
kind
causes
of
that?
what causes the fear of vilification?
And the culture to be one that vilifies.
What causes the culture to be one that vilifies? I guess management comes coming from the top, isn't it?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
I don't.
So are we saying that comes down to leaders almost allowing, it's either allowing or even demonstrating, you hope it's not demonstrating if they're a leader, but in some cases they might be, but at minimum allowing for people who gaslight, for example, to get away with gaslighting.
Yeah.
People who, I mean, in the case of racism, you might say something like, you know, white women's tears and stuff, but it could be just anything that falls into that same ilk of like, oh, I'm not going to let you call me out on this because then I'm going to complain about this, or I'm going to make you feel othered because of this, or I'm going to make you feel like you're pulling the race card because of this. Allowing that behavior to perpetuate and to persist is what leads to a culture where the ally feels, if I step in, I get vilified.
Vilified, yeah.
Or if the ally feels like, I can't do anything.
Also things like just kind of colonial, traditional ways of doing things like target-based work and leadership that doesn't focus on like development of people and the well-being of people. Because the minute you start focusing on the well-being of people, then these things matter because you understand that it is relevant to their progress.
Target-based work and focusing on development of people. I really want to talk about that in a lot more detail. I think it's going to transition us into I think it's called Strong Foundations, but the second section heavily. But just before we get to it, HR, don't mind me just watching. What are we saying about that?
What are we saying about that? I think it is going to lead us into the next section, kind of like policy, the infrastructure of the workplace.
I think for HR to do the don't mind me just watching, that's basically saying, if we were to think about informal terms in practice, we lack the evidence to suggest that what you're bringing to us as a grievance or what you're bringing to us as a complaint is something that we feel stands true or that we will uphold or that we will do anything about. Yeah, you could log your complaint, but
I thought of it kind of like, well, you haven't set sort of a standard of behaviour in your organisation, so I'm not going to call it out if you don't. So I think both things could be true. But then that kind of indicates that HR is there watching as it's happening, which probably is not the case. So it's probably what you're saying, right?
I'd like to think HR are closer to it than. Do you get what I'm saying? Especially if you've got a HR that asks, well, then again, maybe it comes back to what you said. If you're not a people-oriented organisation, your HR maybe isn't that relational.
Yeah.
But I would like to think your HR is fairly relational. Do you get what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
This is deep. Okay. So we said if you've got colonial approaches such as being heavily target-based and not being people-focused. So let's start with the heavily target-based. Why is that a colonial way of working? Let's break it down.
My first thought was people in cotton fields.
Yeah.
Work, bring back this much, I don't know, kilos of whatever it is, or pounds of cotton. We don't care about your well-being, we don't care hit the target.
That is nuts, you know.
That's
because on one hand, you can look at targets and goals and objectives through the lens of personal development and go, they are necessary to give people direction, they are necessary to help people feel like they're working towards something and have a standard. And you know, like I am still a big proponent of KPIs are helpful to tell us about how we're making progress. But this is interesting because I think it brings us back to a conversation you and I were having when I was talking about appraisals within 7PK. And my philosophy on appraisals is that I'm not trying to appraise your work for the purposes of showing where you are underperforming to say you're underperforming. I'm focusing on exposing where you have many strengths and in the areas where we think there could be improvements, for you to have the agency to set your personal and professional development plan, and for me to feel like I can actively and effectively support you with making progress in the areas where we've identified you're not performing as well as you'd like to be. Not for me to say, oh, why didn't you do that? But no, like, the appraisal process is so holistic that it's for you to uncover it and go, oh wow, interesting. So I thought this, but then partners and clients said this, and then you're bringing this to me as my manager. So when we triangulate all of those things, I now realize I want to work on this. Fantastic. So now, what tools do you need to do that? Okay, well, I'm happy to put budget towards this, I'm happy to put time towards this, I'm happy to provide you with this resource, I'm happy to, do you know what I mean? And then how do you feel you feel most comfortable being held accountable? Well, I'd want this from you. Okay, fantastic. So I say all of that to say that whilst that appraisal process does end up with there being goals and targets, because of the fact that it's set by the individual, does that change the dynamic?
I think 100%, yeah. As opposed to giving a black and white target, you're not meeting this target. You're not meeting the black. You're not meeting the white. Like white. I didn't mean like red, blue, whatever it is. And it's like go, attain, work, achieve. By any means, that's not by any means necessary, but your well-being is not centered. You're just not. You're just not doing, or you're not achieving.
And by not achieving, we're now gonna take that as more important than the fact that you may carry all of these different challenges to work due to your identity.
Yeah. And it might be like, well, if you need any help, let us know. But it's like, if leadership's not modelling that behaviour and is constantly focusing on the, target-based achievement, then it's not believable, is it? Like,
Nah, it's not believable.
So then you're more likely to get an environment where people don't speak up about things like racism.
So because we haven't normalised a focus on the individual, we haven't normalised a focus on
person-centered.
Exactly, that person-centered approach is lacking. So if someone then does turn around and say, well, actually, I feel I'm being adversely impacted because of this, or actually, I'm struggling due to this particular thing, it's like, we haven't normalised that. So now that person, one, overthinks even being able to bring that up, which is in itself, like, that's like mentally destructive. But the fact that they even have to overthink it, but then also it's like the fact of once that thing is done and it not being taken seriously, then they're in the position of going, well, should I even bother bringing this up again?
Exactly.
What's the point? Yeah, that's crazy. So then when we talk about that second part, which is the person-centered bit, just to go a bit more into that, like, what do we see? You kind of mentioned a couple of things earlier when we were talking about HR around policy, but what supports that approach being a reality?
What supports the person-centered approach?
Yeah, how does an organisation that isn't doing that implement it, or an organisation that has started doing it strengthen it? Like, what specifically, practically, like, let's get into even some of the things that we use.
So like
what works?
Opening communication channels between staff and leadership. So to understand staff experiences, I think is probably the main thing. Like, understand the genuine experience of staff, because otherwise you can't assume. And I think a lot of places maybe do assume, and it's not actually meeting the needs of the staff, and therefore isn't person-centered.
Yeah. So let's start with that. So if we're saying opening communication channels between staff and leadership, what format are we doing that in? So for example, when I think about our work, we've had organisations we've worked with where if it's, for example, leadership trying to make a decision, and normally it would just be the SLT sitting around the table and they want to execute that, then they've identified, maybe our SLT is not as diverse as we'd like it to be, or as representative of our organisation as we'd like it to be. But we also know that organisations of a size where it's hard to say everybody can attend the next SLT meeting. Some of them have kind of like, they pull together an open Google Doc, and it's like, we're gonna basically capture all of our thinking in this, then we're gonna open the doc up to everybody for people can leave comments, so then at least people have the opportunity to feed into leadership decision making, even if not an SLT member, through that mechanism. Then you've got things like, which we've done with other organisations, as you know, is like, we might say we're going to create like an anonymous survey that people can just plug stuff onto at any point. Not like, oh, it runs for a certain period of time. It just stays open, and if people don't have the confidence, they can just drop stuff on there.
Yeah.
Then you have like, you know, more formally when we're doing stuff with SLT members in terms of their approach to truly inclusive leadership, that's when we'll have a proper 360 feedback survey with more targeted questions that really help that leader to identify what's going on and have to therefore take on board stuff with people. And then you've got almost like what tends to follow that, which is when you then connect not just leaders but people in general to one another, and kind of, especially through line management, start to think about people sharing their reflections on certain things to do with anti-racism, to do with equity, diversity, inclusion more broadly, and having specific prompts that they reflect on to then bring that into line management spaces. So these are almost like, to me, 4 distinct approaches, but yeah, like, in your opinion, out of those, what works, or why would we use the different ones? As well as that, is there anything else you can think of, or what does just open communications for leadership need to look like?
I think it depends. I think if an organisation already has some sort of culture of openness, honesty, and sort of like, would it be an asset-based approach? Then I think then you can have things like focus groups, for example, where everyone's sort of speaking in front of each other. And I think if the cultures are still quite closed and needs to be sort of broken open, then you'd probably start with anonymised surveys to sort of bring those discussion topics up. And then even maybe things like, alongside things like what we do, like training about courageous conversations, like how to also approach these topics safely when we start to gather our findings.
100%.
I feel like I've deviated from your questions.
No, that wasn't that.
Yeah, is that the answer? So I think it depends. It takes like a really, again, the principle of a person-centered approach, we apply to the organisation. So the organisation specific need, like we assess kind of their culture and what they need, and then go the route that will bring out the best
100%.
income output.
So then, if we're taking a person-centered approach, who has to be invested in the person and their development? Because I imagine some people might look at that and go, well, that's the responsibility of the line manager.
I think it starts with the person themselves.
Okay.
But obviously that encouragement comes from also the environment. So line manager, I think everyone needs to be invested in each other.
I agree.
You can't.
But then why do organisations almost go, well, then let their line manager do that? They should be the most invested person in that person. The line manager should be. But why, as opposed to, because I'm like you, I'm like, nah, all of us should be invested in
like
that person. Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying? So like, because for example, I remember a few years ago, I don't think you were doing a session with me, someone else was. I want to say it was my friend Jess, I think. Yeah, you know Jess Manning. We were doing a session. I had a session that I'd been booked to do with Birkbeck Uni, and Jess joined me. And I remember there was in the session we were conscious that the only person who was from a racialized black background was this black woman, and so the session was fine. It was really, really progressive. People were super vulnerable, super open, all of that. But like, we just noticed she hadn't said much during the session, which is understandable because we're not in any way expecting that black people have to be the ones to share all of their challenges and to be at the center of designing solutions to anything. But we were just conscious she was quite quiet, and so I just remember like kind of messaging Jess during the session and being like, we need to invite her into the discussion. So we did. And she said, actually, you know what, I've just been listening, I've just been thinking, I'm good, I don't have much to say. And she emailed immediately after and was just like, I've never felt so seen by you guys doing that. Like, that was really, like, she understood why we did it.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? And she said, I never felt so seen, and I just really appreciated you making the space for that. And she was like, it was amazing to hear my colleagues speak so openly and vulnerably. Unfortunately, they had a great team who were really progressive with the discussions they were having and wanted to be solution focused and all of that. But I think it unlocked something for her to first of all be seen, to feel acknowledged, to feel valued, but also she felt safe in the environment, because it wasn't like, oh, we're gonna just notice that you haven't said anything and just move on. Like, actually, no, let's uncover whether there is anything there.
Yep.
Do you get what I'm saying? But I bring that up to say, even us as an external organization, we're trying to be as people-centered as possible.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Always.
We're trying to think, yo, how's insert name getting on in that team? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah,
it's important.
And try not to be like extractive, you know, like so give us your information. Like it is about you and your experiences and your needs, desires, your kind of perceptions. It's not just extractive, which is another kind of like colonial, traditional kind of cold method of working. Which
super, yeah, 100%. And that extractive nature, I think that so like obviously we have these things that people can probably see on the screen here, etc. Around like, is pillars the right word? Let's call it 6 core pillars. Let's just call it for the sake of it pillars, yeah. These 6 core pillars that kind of are what we center our work with organizations on, because whilst people could argue there's more that needs to be addressed if you're going to become equitable, diverse, inclusive, you could argue that these 6 are kind of like foundational, so to speak, or at least they cover a lot of what's needed. So being data driven, you know, like educating people in the right way across your organization, getting your governance right, you know, how do you make effective decisions day to day operationally, you know, how are you recruiting accordingly to become more diverse, more inclusive, and then similarly, like what policies do you have in place that back up all of the work that you do, or even lead as well the work that you do. But I bring those up to say that whole thing of like being extractive, I think part of that is centered in data and part of that is centered in the education parts. So if I think about it from a data standpoint, it's like either we just want the quantitative data that tells us, oh, actually we have this many people from these many backgrounds in our organization. And as we know, the reason why diversity and equity differ is because, yeah, you can have 50% of your organization be people from racialized backgrounds, people from other marginalized communities. But if all of them are at the bottom level of the organization, it means nothing. So you can be extractive for data when you want to present it in a certain way, but we have to also be careful that we're not weaponizing that data. Similarly, from an education standpoint, it's like, okay, we finally have decided that we're going to try and go on this journey to become anti-racist or to become more equitable, to become more inclusive, and now we're looking to extract everything from our colleagues from those marginalized communities to understand what are their experiences, what do they think we should be doing, and like trying to almost say to them, yeah, you should lead on this. And it's like, that in itself, as part of your education process, is extractive and is downright disrespectful. Do you get what I'm saying? So I think it is, for me, indicative usually of those two things. But yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything to that specifically.
Not particularly there, no, I think that covers that.
Yeah, 100. Okay. Actually, no, just another thing on the data point. Because data can be quantitative and qualitative.
Oh, yeah, I did have a thought actually. But
go on.
Yeah, when you said the quantitative data, again, that's kind of, I think traditionally we're used to focusing on the numbers.
Exactly.
But then that is often not person-centered. You're not,
it's
with
not.
the qualitative kind of data collection or exploration, you're collecting the themes, you're collecting the nuances, you're collecting the anecdotes, you're collecting the things that you wouldn't even think of to be putting a tick box on a number. You're expanding. It's far more meaningful.
And again, it doesn't even have to be attributed to individuals per se, because obviously you might anonymize a lot of that, but the truth is, without that, you don't get the true insights. Like, you wasn't even in this meeting, but someone that we know really well from the work that we're doing in the youth sector. They showed me something they put on their workplace survey, Yo, Nat, you don't understand. They went in, bruv. They were like, this one's gonna be real, working here is, and they just were going mad with it. Like the way they were talking there, it's like, yo, you're not the bane of my life. Like it was
the thorn in my side.
Literally, like it was nuts. And I just was laughing because I was thinking, but this is necessary.
Yes.
Because what if they never get the chance to tell their organisation that properly?
What if the organisation are completely oblivious and think they're doing great and don't know and assuming we're great in this area, and if they didn't, make the opportunity for that communication, they would never know.
That person actually went so in. If you saw what they said, it was nuts. But it was necessary. Do you get what I'm saying? Because if that's how they feel, if that's what they've had to bottle up for X amount of time,
imagine.
It goes to show. Do you get what I'm saying?
Impact on their well-being, their motivation, everything.
Man. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's a lot there. So then let's bring ourselves into this sort of final section, which is like, what's our concerns in it? What's keeping us up at night? We're going to talk to our guests about this as well. But what things, as we're working with organizations, working with people, as we're developing out what we're doing in a way that we hope will become more effective, but also help us to achieve our mission. What concerns do we still have? What challenges do we still have? frustrations do we still have from what we're observing, from what we're seeing, from who we're working with,
I've got
etc.?
one. Something that's been on my mind on and off lately, well, for a long time, but more frequently lately, and I've mentioned it to you before. It's the concept of moral injury.
Tell our viewers more, just in case.
I was looking at it earlier on actually. I'm going to read a little definition. So, what is moral injury? So it's psychological distress that can occur when people witness or fail to prevent or participate in acts that violate their moral code. So,
Ooh.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, wait. Let me not take it there. So, if we are talking about kind of systemic racism, let's say, let's say you are a white person and you've just got all this learning about systemic racism, and you're kind of like, whoa. So that time I said that time I did that time that was racist, that was oppressive. My thought is we talk about, white fragility and defensiveness, white tears quite often, but then I've been just kind of pondering on the fact that what if they're experiencing moral injury?
Ooh.
And it says moral injury isn't like a diagnosed mental health thing, but it does lead into deep kind of depression, anxiety, and it's kind of like, no, I'm not sitting here making excuses. Oh, but they might be experiencing moral injury. But I'm like, if we're sitting here and we're genuinely trying to do this work for change, positive impact, then we have to kind of address the issues on all sides. And so I've been thinking a lot about how do we explore moral injury with the people that we work with, or the white people that we work with, if in terms of racism.
Without them seeing it as a get-out clause, right?
Yeah, without it being a get-out clause.
Yeah.
Genuine, active work to overcome an experience of, because we're like, oh, white guilt, but genuine moral injury. How do we support people in reconciling that?
That is deep.
It could even be in instances of racism for black people as well, that have been like, oh my gosh, I've been spewing out internalized racism or internalized misogyny.
And for a lot of black people that might be the case.
Women.
So let's address both then. So, or even three if you was to break it down in the way you've just broken it down. So let's address the first one, like for people who might have every intention of being, what's the word? Being nice, being respectful, being inclusive, etc. Maybe even trying to become an ally, and it's brought to their attention that things such as X, Y, or Z, which may also be things they've done, are offensive or adversely impactful, etc. And so now the guilt that comes with that is the moral injury, because it's them facing up to the fact that they may have been a proponent of what they didn't necessarily want to support up to this point.
Yeah, like my moral code is I don't support racism or oppressive practice, but oh my god, I have been. My behaviour has contributed to that. Sorry, I
mean, my response to that is always like, obviously you have to acknowledge that this thing is a journey, and the person you are today is not who you're going to become. And I say become very intentionally, not who you're going to be, because be feels a bit more like you've reached a destination. Become feels more like you're going to keep growing and growing and growing until you get and probably surpass that destination. But it's more about who you're going to become on the journey. So it's all well and good saying, oh, I didn't want it to come across like this. That's fine. Now you know going forwards, if that was said because of a slip of the tongue, or if that was said because of tiredness, or if that was said because of being careless or not understanding or whatever, like now you will know to address that before you do it next time. But similarly, I always say to people, like, make peace with yourself as well, innit?
Yeah.
So like, you have to be in a position when you're doing this work where you have to be okay with being told that that wasn't quite right, and actually there's more to do, and actually there's further to go, and all of that kind of stuff. And so not getting it quite right needs to be the norm. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I always use the example of, like, I was doing a session, when was it? I think it was year before last. It wasn't even last year, it might have been year before last. And I was doing a session with a really big corporate, and I had asked for some handsheets to be printed for me before the day. I sent them, and I didn't see them straight away, but I said, all right, I'm gonna just like wait until that part of the session. forgot about it. Got to that part and I was like, oh yeah, I need the worksheets. So I said to the woman, I can't remember her name now. Let's just say her name was Barbara, yeah?
Right.
I said to Barbara, oh Barbara, did we get the worksheets that I sent over? And she's like, oh, I'm actually just gonna go and check if they've printed them now. So she left the room.
I was there.
Nah, you weren't.
Oh,
you weren't.
I remember this happening enough. Anyway, I don't know the story.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah. So let's just say Barbara. As I said, 'cause I genuinely can't remember her name. But Barbara goes out. She comes back within like 10 seconds or something. She's got the worksheets. So I was like, I stopped what I was saying. And I was like, because I obviously just started on facilitating without the worksheets. And Barbara walks back in and I goes, rah, Barbara's not messing around. It's like Hogwarts or something in here. Do you get what I'm saying? So then, it like implying that it was magic. Do you get what I'm saying? To which everything was cool. But then one person pulled me to one side in the break and just went, just out of interest, like, were you aware that your comment may well have offended, obviously, the LGBTQ plus community because of what J.K. Rowling's been doing as of recent? And I just remember sitting there thinking, because I set a precedence at the start of the session where I said, guys, we're all gonna make mistakes, including me, and I'm happy to be called out on it. And I said, rah, like she actually felt the need or chose to call me out accordingly, and I just thought, oh, this is brilliant. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That stuff is so key, man.
But then in that instance, what you could have done is you could have felt so bad, you could have got defensive. No, like I'm not anti whatever, and you could have become fragile. You could have become guarded. You could have become, because you know you don't see yourself as someone that wishes to cause harm in that way. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think a positive takeaway from this for people who have been in instances where they've accidentally caused offence is that discomfort that you feel is because it does come from a good place. It's because you don't wish to cause offence, but remember that, and in order to act in line with that, the defensiveness, the fragility, the even sometimes outbursts, maybe even aggression, do not support the fact that you're injured because you have a strong moral code against.
There you go.
Right, and I think,
that's exactly
let's keep in alignment here.
Yeah, the defensiveness and the fragility comes from this, and now you've got to work through that.
Yeah.
Once you've acknowledged it, you've got to work through that.
Exactly.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like in another episode we need to talk about what the working through that looks like.
This is what's on my mind.
That is really important, and I want us to be as practical as possible. Like I want us to literally give away our best stuff in this podcast because, as far as I'm concerned, as I say all the time, when people say, "Oh, don't give away your best stuff because then no one has a reason to pay for it," and I'm like, "You think we do this just for money? One, second of all." And Rio and Natalie laugh at me. You ain't got the minerals, bro. You just ain't got the minerals, innit? Like, we'll give away our best stuff in the podcast because the other people who are saying, oh, I'll now use that with my organizations or my clients, please do. Like, we're trying to make the world a better place, so please do use it, first of all. But second of all, if you thought you were doing this to take something from us, we ain't built like that. We're not built to think that, like, we need to hoard and keep it like, bruv, you ain't got the minerals anyway, so enjoy doing what you're doing. I ain't got nothing else to say in it. Just develop your minerals. That's all I'm gonna say.
What was it? Drink the sea moss.
Drink your sea moss. Soak your cashews. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, whatever you gotta do. Do you get what I'm saying? I don't laugh at
Don't. I'm not.
You lot are funny, you know. Oh my
days. Soak
days.
the cashews, we'll leave it there.
Private joke. But anyway, so like, you ain't got the minerals for that anyway. So, but no, this stuff is really important. I feel like I want to kind of like bring it to a close because I feel like we've covered good ground today. And I think that people should hopefully take some good value from this. So any parting thoughts, anything that you want to share with people just on the way out, on the like, don't forget to or whatever?
No.
Okay. Fair enough. Mine.
No?
That's cool. Mine would simply be like, I'm really inspired by what Natalie said about the moral injury bit, which is that you've got to try and identify within your people, in your organization, assuming that it's people with big enough organizations watching this, that like, you've got to start to go on a journey of identifying what is a response to genuine fragility when it comes to addressing things to do with racism or other forms of oppression and discrimination, or what is a response of just not understanding it. So making that differentiation is going to be a powerful point for any leader or HR person or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
I think even for EDI leaders, EDI facilitators, sometimes when you're witnessing a defensiveness or whatever, it could be linked to moral injury. And so I think there's a responsibility there for facilitators that can be explored.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. Well, listen, that brings us to a close. This has been our first episode of EDI Exposed. We expect that we will see you again for the next one. In the meantime, jump in the comments on whatever platform you're watching this on. More time, this will be on YouTube, this will be on audio platforms, but also we're looking to fling 1 and 2 clips on the LinkedIns and things like that of this world. So on whatever platform you're using, we want you to jump in the comments and tell us, what is one example of moral injury that you may have experienced or seen in another colleague based on Natalie's definition of moral injury. And with that being said, we'll see you on another episode of EDI Exposed. Much love.